Hey everyone, it's Mr. Sugg coming at you with a lesson on Unit 3, Lesson 7. We're going to talk about enhanced for loops. So let me go through these modules and kind of show you what's happening as we delve into enhanced for loops. We did some notes in class, and kind of the main thing or the main gist of today is we're going to focus on how do we run for loops more efficiently. Um, so what I'm going to do is walk you through kind of what I did, as well as kind of what you need to know for the enhanced for loops so without writing all my notes. First things first, we're going to take a look at the code and we're going to run it. It's always a good idea to do so. The main thing I want you to pay attention to is kind of the in code.org for the first few or for the next few lessons, you'll see this for a while. They're going to have these different text files here, and I think I went over this in a previous lesson. And they're going to go ahead and bring them over into 1D arrays, and they're going to assign those 1D arrays to an object. So let me explain a little bit more because this is going to happen. It's a recurring theme for sure. So in this case, what we're looking at is we have a list of companies, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan Chase, et cetera, all the way down to Walmart, right? So and this is a text file. So as far as Java is concerned, it just kind of ignores all of this. It's just sitting there as a text file. It doesn't execute any code. This other one called profits shows the corresponding profits, presumably in billions, for each of these companies. So Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, has revenues of 89.8 million, or profits, excuse me. JP Morgan Chase has a profit of $42 billion, so on and so forth. So they do kind of relate one to one. Company.java. What this does is it is what you use to create a company object. So if I spawn an object where it's Walmart with $100 billion in profits, that's you're going to use this company constructor to build that company object. So I have a bunch of these objects. When you go to Forbes.java, you'll notice there's something a little bit different here. We have three different private instance arrays that are, sorry, not instance arrays, three different one-dimensional arrays that are created with private access, so it stays in this class. And you'll see one's a string, one's a double, one's a company. The company is the main thing to focus on here. What's interesting is I'm in the Forbes class, but on line 8, you'll see that I'm using not a string or a double or an int or boolean to make a 1D array. I'm using the company class right here. So what this is, just like we see in the comments, this is a one-dimensional array of company objects. So in a lot of cases, we've been used to just making a one-dimensional array of prices or a one-dimensional array of dog breeds or whatever, right? There are specific values. Well, in this case, we're going to focus more on we have these objects and we're going to store it in a one-dimensional array. Okay. So you're going to run this, see what's going on. Let's take a look at modifying the elements or modifying the actual lesson. So we're going to keep staying with this company's theme for a while, and I'm happy to clear it out just so we can kind of go through the various things. Let me start over. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start over with the code so I can kind of walk you through one by one. And I'm going to explain to you what's happening as we go through this. So first thing I want us to do, this is just, hey, look and see. We're going to look at the toString method in the Forbes class. So go to Forbes.java, scroll down, and down here I see toString. Now, what you should remember from last unit is toString is what allows us to be able to print objects. What they want you to pay attention to, because this is enhanced for loops, is line 51. Okay. So for the toString, we have this for company org colon companies, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm going to try and explain it to you best I can, just straight up with code. So if you're going, this is called an enhanced for loop. The format for the enhanced for loop is we're going to use the word for, surprise, surprise. And inside the parentheses, what you're going to do is you're going to do the data type first. And then the next word you're going to do is some sort of random name of that new array. And then we're going to do this colon, and then we're going to do the original array. So here's what's happening. Up above, we have and we just talked about this, we have a one-dimensional array called companies that is storing company objects. Okay. The beauty of an enhanced for loop is I don't have to write the for int I equals 0, I is less than companies dot length, blah, 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 blah. What this allows me to do is basically it's going to say, hey, I recognize that there is a one-dimensional array out there of objects, let's say, and I'm going to go ahead and run a for loop for the length of that company's array, however big it is. So if it has 10 elements, great. I'll do this for loop 10 times. If it has 11 elements, I'll do it 11 times. That's what the enhanced for loop is doing. The colon, what that means is that for each, so basically what it's saying is for each value or each element that's in companies, we're going to do the same thing in this copy one-dimensional array of org. Okay. So here's what's happening. And so the data type could be different. I could do this for string or int or double, but you'll see there's really no reason to do enhanced for loop necessary for that. But what we're going to do is that for each element of companies, we're going to go ahead and take whatever the whatever value was already stored there in the one-dimensional array, and we're going to add a new line and then keep adding to result. So basically what we're doing is we're accessing each uh element in here, right? And we're going to go ahead and tie it in or store it into result and then return result. Let's go ahead and run this and see if we come into any issues. Okay, and it goes ahead and it shows everything. So I see the names of the companies and I see the profits. And here we can see we made a top companies object, right? Or an object called top companies from the Forbes class, and we're going to go ahead and print it. So the toString allows us to do that. So let's move right along because we're actually going to add some code here in a minute. Okay. So what they want me to do is they want me to go back to Forbes.java. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and copy and paste this method to the Forbes class. So if I go to Forbes, right, I have get all profits, right, which is this would be just a regular old for loop, right? So it totally works. And we're going to go ahead and look at annual profits.length for that. So I'm just kind of taking a quick look. And at the end, let's add the new code here that they want us to add. I'm going to do an indentation just because it looks a bit cleaner. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run it. There are some errors here. Let's see what's the matter. So line 65, cannot find symbol total plus equals annual profits index. Okay. So here's the deal. You're supposed to get this error. So you'll notice that when you do an enhanced, well, back in the day when we did a regular for loop, right? Just like this one right up above here, you could have done the for int index equals 0, blah, blah, and then you could have done this annual profits bracket index. The reason you're able to do that is because I set my counter or index value to 0, and then every time I loop, that number goes into that bracket. So I can access the 0th element of annual profits, the first element or index value 1 of annual profits, so on and so forth. Enhanced for loop, you don't get to do that. So this index value is gone. Okay. Now what they want us to do is they want me to change it to just total plus equals profit. Let me see. Is there anything else I want to change in the to do? So if I run it with just profit, now it works. Okay. So the idea again is we change the annual profits bracket index to just profit, and it's able to go look at the profit values for each of those annual profits. Now, please keep in mind, and this is one thing that I tried to mention in class. What is this annual profits array? Well, if you look up at top, annual profits is just a one-dimensional array of the double data type. In other words, everything in this array is going to be a decimal value. We cannot do the same with this company one-dimensional array, and you'll see why in a minute. All right, so here I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the line in. So it looks like we got to write increase profits. It's a void data type. So I'm going to copy and paste this in if I can. All at the bottom. We run it. Okay, so what we're trying to do before we just move on is we're trying to increase profits by a factor of 2. Okay, so it's going to take whatever the profit value is and multiply it by 2 and keep going along. And did I have to print anything? Oh, I have to I haven't called the method yet. So let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and use that top company's object to call the increase profits method. And then once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and use get all profits to print it. So once I've done line 11, it's already in theory doubled every single element. And then so when I print it with the get all profits, right, it should return me the profits. So this is just the profits. Let's look at it's a long list, but do you remember Berkshire Hathaway, the first company, has profits of 89.8 billion, right? Right there. So in theory, when I just run the numbers, I should be able to see that this is 100 some odd billion. But look, it hasn't changed. So what that means is, unfortunately, my code isn't working correctly. So let's go to the next one. Whoops, I forgot to do the actual change to make it better. Sorry. So let me go back to this. We'll blow it up a little bit. All right. So then to number two, we're going to change that code for increased profits, right? And we're going to change it so that it becomes a regular for loop. So I'm just going to change everything, run it again. And now you'll notice that the value for Berkshire Hathaway is not 89.8 million, but now it's double or 179.6 billion. So it did what it was supposed to do. Now let's just take a quick look. I'm going to kind of put them side by side and I'll delete it because it's going to run an error later. So I'm just trying to put these side by side. So in the first iteration of or first try with the increased profits, right? It is a void return type, by the way, so there's no return, which is great. Looks like we busted out an enhanced for loop. And then the idea was I would just take the profit and double it every time. So you do this equals. And in theory, this is the same thing as profit equals profit times two. Cool. Look what's happening that's different here. So the enhanced for loop, that does not work. But for the regular for loop, you'll notice that we have a little bit more control. I'm able to set index value equal to zero, blah, blah, blah. And now we're able to use this times equals method with the value of the index. So in other words, if you want to do something a little bit more specific to modify each element, right? Especially when you're dealing with just values that are the same. So these are all doubles, right? You should probably use an enhanced for loop. That's kind of the main thing I took away from this. Okay. You'll learn later that, or to me at least, when we use objects, I would recommend using the enhanced for loop. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that because that really does nothing. So again, if I'm trying to change the values of something, go ahead and use the regular for loop. Okay. All right, so let's go to module 6. And I guess I'll do bicycle counts. And you'll see in lesson 8 gets more difficult as we practice algorithms. So here what they want us to do is convert the for loop to an enhanced for loop. Okay, easy enough. So this is all the same for module 6 for every one of those. So I'm gonna scroll down here and it tells you to convert it to an enhanced for loop. Okay. I don't recommend deleting any code. I would just use comments to comment them out. And then right under it, I'm going to go ahead and write the enhanced for loop, right? So for, and in this case, I'm thinking, well, what's the 1D array I'm going to work with? I'm noticing that we have bicycle counts already, and it's an integer data type. Okay, so what I'm going to do for my enhanced for loop, again, remember, we use some sort of data type with a name, and then I need to use, in terms of the format, a colon, and then whatever the original array name is. So the original array name is where I start. It's bicycle counts. So I'm going to copy and paste that in. There you go. And then for the new data type, right, it should match whatever bicycle counts was, which is int up there. And then for the name, I'll just say, I don't even know what we're doing, counts, I guess. Did we use counts anywhere else? Nope. Okay, so then within my for loop, I'm going to go ahead and run this. So we do total plus equals, and then try and do bicycle counts. Let's see if this works. Oops, not bicycle counts. The new array that we're using a copy of. That will work. Let's run it. Just make sure we have no errors, and then I think I have to print it. Oh, it did it for me. Okay, so what it did was it's able to do the total bicycle counts. There were no errors. So what I'm thinking is in bicycle runner, yep, we already called the calc total bicycles. So that's done. Okay, so job done. I'm going to go ahead and test it, make sure we're good, which we are. And now let's get to something a little bit more fun. Now we're going to do bicycle counts, but this time I'm going to go ahead and use calculate the average, I believe. Is there anything else you want me to do? Oh, sorry, I need to go to module 7. My bad, wrong one. Let's do screen time. A lot of you guys like being on your phones, so why not talk about this? Okay. So what they want us to do is write the calc average time method to calculate and return the average amount of time spent on social networking apps. Okay. What I'm going to notice is that there's really nothing in the main class. Yes, we'll do the stuff with the text file and whatever. I'm going to look at the times.txt file. These are all the screen times of various people they sampled. Cool. In minutes, presumably. The class screen time.java creates you a one-dimensional array of all integers called social network times. And it's going to go ahead and have a constructor. And then here they want us to calculate the average time. They want us to use an enhanced for loop. No problem. So say less, right? So I'm going to go ahead and use the enhanced for loop. And then to calculate total, let's start with total first, right? There's no other methods in here. So I'm going to bust out the for loop. And then I know this is an int data type, and I'm just going to call it copy. It's going to correspond for each element to social network times. I can also just call time. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that there has to be some way to do a total, right? So in order to, before I get to that with the total, let's go ahead and create an int total equals 0, right? So I'm going to declare and initialize my variable there. That's going to be my counter for total, so that when I do total, I can do total plus equals this time. You might be asking, hey, Souther, do I need to actually use like get time or get whatever, use the accessor method? The answer is no. Why? Because it's already in a one-dimensional array of just integer data types, and Java knows that already. Let me just run this and make sure I'm not going to come into any problems. There we go. So there's no errors. So far, so good. And then they want me to instantiate a screen time object, and they're going to have us use this file reader array. Okay, so I want to keep in mind that times is all int. So I'm going to do this format that they give us, copy and paste the code. This is that what Java created or what code.org has. Okay, and then for int numbers, let's just call it, that's fine, numbers or screen time. It's going to equal file reader.int array, and that's called times.txt. Going to go ahead and run it. This just creates the one-dimensional array. I'm just making sure there's no errors, which there's not, which is great. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the method that they want, which is calc average time. So I'm going to do screen times dot calc average time. And I just realized that I probably didn't code the average, did I? Correct. There we go. So here's the cool part. I am returning total, but this ain't the average. So I don't have the whole job done. But what I can do is do total divided by, remember, we have the array name dot length, and that'll tell me the average, right? So total value divided by however many elements there are. Let's go ahead and run it, just make sure there's no errors. And it looks like I did get errors. Let's see. So screen times dot calc average time is not working. So some sort of problem with calc average time. Did I mess up somewhere? Let's just see. So the public int calc average time, that should be fine. Do we calculate the total? So I did int total equals 0, int time, social network time. So we did int plus equals time. So that should all be fine. Let me just see. And it's unhappy with line 11. I did screen times equals 5. Let me just comment this out because line 11 seems to be causing some sort of problem. So time to debug a bit. Oh, there we go. We have more problems here. What did I mess up on? Let me just see. Oh, there we go. I don't know why I spit out the same error again, but now we're good. So I created an int 1D array of screen times. Okay. Oh, right. Silly me. I created a one-dimensional array, but I can't use a one-dimensional array to call a method here. I'm going to need to create that screen time class called, you know, test or whatever I want to call it is new screen time. And then guess what? We're going to put in that value of the one-dimensional array screen times here. I'm pretty sure. Let's look at the constructor real quick before I just move on. Yep. Screen time is taking on whatever the file name is. So there we go. That should work now. So I'm going to kind of just do it one step at a time, catch the errors that I have, which it looks like I am. So screen time should be right in here. Am I messing something up with this file reader array? Oh, you know what? I'm so dumb. Look here. It already went ahead and did it. So I can go ahead and create. I don't need to create this. I can just create a let me just think here. We did that. So I should just be able to use just a variable here. So let me just look at something. Yeah, let me just look one more time at the here we go. So let me just look at the constructor. When I make a screen time object, it takes in the file name. Okay, so that was times.txt, and it goes ahead and does the toInt array for me. So I didn't need to do this extra stuff. We actually don't even need this because it's going to go ahead and do it for us. So rather than creating that, I could just straight up go times.txt, and that'll go ahead and fill in the one-dimensional array. And then in theory, I should be able to use that object I just spawned called test to calc the average time. And then we should be able to just do system.out.println test. And there we go. So at the moment, it looks like we have screen time, blah, 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 blah. So that's an error I'm going to typically get when, guess what? I have this calc average time is not stored anywhere. So I have two choices. I could either store this somewhere, or guess what? I can go ahead and copy and paste this right in there and print it. So it's just mad because it's just giving me the storage location, it looks like, of where this thing is. Let me run it again. I should be done fumbling around here. There we go. So it's 60. If I run the test, we're good to go. I did a couple more in class. So I might as well just show you since we're on this page. If you look at basketball, for example, there's a couple things to pay attention to. We have text files of the name of the player and however many points they scored. Okay. And then the purpose of player.java or that class is to create a player that stores their name and total points to each player. Done. When you have basketball class, it's going to go ahead and create a one-dimensional array of players and store it in this player array. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where if you're going to go ahead and do a total, it's not so straightforward. Okay. Before, when we had a single data type, not a data type of like int, double, or string, we could get away with just doing whatever the copy array name was, and then just using total plus equals copy. But remember, here we have an array of objects. So something to pay attention to is when I have an array of objects, I have to use the accessor method to go get those total points, because we don't care at this point about the name of the player. We only care about how many points that player scored for each element or each player that I'm looking at. So that's something to pay attention to. All right, we're going to do more of this in lesson 8, so I hope this helps.